Welcome to the Unfiltered Path Podcast, where we explore life's journey without the constraint of filters. In a world saturated with highlight reels, we dive deep into the true essence of individual experiences, offering listeners an uncensored glimpse into the triumphs, struggles, and transformative moments that define us. Our mission is to provide hope, inspire resilience, and remind you that every path, no matter how windy or rocky, can lead to growth and enlightenment. Join us as we navigate the uncharted territories of truth and to be moved, be inspired, and discover that you're not alone on this unfiltered journey of life. Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Duval. I'm the owner of Valued Productions. We are a video marketing agency helping entrepreneurs and business owners turn strangers into clients using video content. I'm one of your co-hosts here today, joined with my other co-host today.
Hey everyone, Trinity Baker. I'm a mindset coach and motivational speaker. I take my clients from survival mode to thrival with the power of their mindset. Joined here with my co-host.
Hi everyone, my name is Danielle. I'm the owner of Aerial Jade. I'm an aerialist. It's a fancy term for performing suspended in the air. Essentially, I'm the bird of the circus. I'm also an educator, so I teach other people how to do it also. And we're here with our wonderful guest today. That's you.
Oh, hey. Sorry, I'm a little
Okay.
slow here.
I'm here.
Yeah. And my name is Amber Rose Cox, and I am the founder of Maine Hypnosis Center that's based in Central Maine, Lewiston, Auburn area. I specialize in emotional intelligence development. I am a author and a global speaker and presenter.
Awesome. We are so blessed to have you here with us today, Amber. I know that Danielle speaks so highly of you, so I'm excited to get to know more about what you do and how you help the clients that you serve.
Oh, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And I've been doing this work for about 17 years, and the hypnosis part of it is what I found is highly misunderstood. So it's wonderful to have an opportunity to share what I do, to kind of debunk it a little bit and how it can be a powerful tool for change. And so I so appreciate, Danielle, that you've been a wonderful as far as sharing your experience, with how it helped you.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's one of the definitely want to dive into that a little bit more because I definitely think there is a misconception on the whole hypnosis thing, like a lot of people think it's that like, you see it on the cartoons or the movies or something where it's someone like doing something and their eyes
Yeah.
turn into the little spirals and
Spiral.
then
Yeah.
yeah, and it's not that at all. So I'd love to hear kind of some of those myths that are
Yeah.
not true, really.
Yeah. So, it's a natural state for one. There is science behind it, but there's like there is a phenomena as well. A lot of people, Graham, do see that, and they think that it is a form of mind control, or it's just woo woo, right? It's not something that is credible. And I've had to really, I would say, fight the good fight. And I've done a lot of education, especially like in the medical community, as far as bringing credibility to this profession and raising the bar that it's a natural state. We all go in and out of hypnosis or trance all the time. And I can prove that to you very easily. It is a powerful state because it's accessing the unconscious mind, which is the most powerful at influencing how we think, how we feel, how we behave. It affects our health right down to a cellular level. But yeah, it's a consent state. So when people see the entertainment side of it and they see people up on stage, it actually is real. There's a whole process to that, but it also can give the wrong impression about what it is. Again, it's a natural state. We go in and out of it all the time. I think we're in hypnosis more than we're not, actually.
Really? That's interesting.
Can I give like my reduced version of what attracted me to go to you as a client?
Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
love to hear
most
that.
definitely.
Yeah.
Most
So
definitely.
through meditation, right? If you practice meditation, then you're willingly participating in self-hypnosis.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then
Mm-hmm.
we learn especially if you've been through trauma, right? You want to understand yourself a little bit or how you're responding to people or, things like that, especially when we get a little bit older. And then you start to realize that a lot of behaviors are subconscious. And then you see
Mm-hmm.
other people doing subconscious behaviors towards you. And at some point, you got to go, well, how am I not reaching those behaviors? And,
Yeah.
and if you're enlightened enough to research like tapping methods, or again, these are all self hypnosis things. And then then you realize that we're being hypnotized when we just watch TV or
Mm-hmm.
we listen to music. So as she said, we're pretty much hypnotized more times a part of the day than we even realize.
Mm-hmm.
So why not use that as a tool,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Instead of fear.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
how do I make this to my benefit?
Yeah.
And so I knew removed nightmares like just by doing tapping, and then they're gone. And
Mm-hmm.
I can't really explain it except tell you that happened for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then please understand that I had met someone who quit smoking already because of her. And it was like a year after, so she smoked her whole life. And it was a year after she had quit and she had still stopped. And that's when I started saving to meet with her to
Mm-hmm.
address my addiction. And it was so deeply rooted, in such early parts of my life. One of my favorite parts is I never felt out of state. So people that celebrate sobriety can understand this. It was like a willingness to participate with her help to heal something that I'm willing to heal,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I saved up to meet her, so my mind was already prepped for the goal, right? So it's just to
Mm.
me it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense, and I think it's okay to sometimes say this might be bigger than my awareness of self,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know, and I need help. So, I mean, I was just all about it. It was absolutely effective. It was not a magic wand. She didn't get me in any out of sobriety state. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I was still conscious of what was happening. I was just willing to participate and to
Mm-hmm.
heal.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
one of the visualizations that came from it, I don't know if it was that visit, she let me go back. And it wasn't that I had stopped doing what I had tried to fix. It was I went back because I was kind of leaning on other habits
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't want to do that. So I went in for a
Mm.
self-check with that. Like I felt like I was eating a lot, like out of just like filling that space instead of
Mm-hmm.
something,
Yeah.
And I don't even know where I was going. So, oh, my visualization from it. So there was a moment, so this is very intimate for you to share. I was not dead or anything, but I was in an aerial view of Lewiston, Auburn, and it was summertime. And it was like a consciousness. Do you see the ripple you did?
Mm.
Like they're doing that because you did it first. Not that I did it first or that everyone was aerialist. It wasn't that. It was something like internal. And I
Yeah.
see the positive ripple above my community because I had made that change in myself.
Mm-hmm.
I had lived it out. I talk about it. I refer people. And then I made sure she was on this platform to further discuss it.
Well,
Yeah.
everything we see
Yeah.
is a ripple. Everything we're all
Yeah.
here to make a ripple, and it's either positive or negative. So I love that you're
I
like,
saw it. It
yeah,
was
Yeah.
summer. It was like people I knew, people I didn't know, people that
Mm-hmm.
don't like me. And
Yeah.
then it was just it was like a more of a vibration, and it felt very like balloon festival-y vibes,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting because I worked all the movie nights in the balloon festival this summer, and I'm already booked
Yeah.
for next. So it's just interesting that I had that visualization far before I was even doing those gigs.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
So
well, Amber, so we've talked about smoking, quitting
Mhm.
smoking being one of those things, but like, tell us what else people come to you for.
Yeah. Just to feedback really, just to Danielle. Actually, Danielle, were you with me when you had that visual? Because that sounds familiar to me.
Yeah. So I
Yes.
expressed it
Yes.
to you because like you
Yes.
took me back in time to a particular feeling. So you identified
Yes.
the feeling I needed to find. And then
Yeah.
in my mind, I identified the place that the feeling was related to. And then I could
Yeah.
see myself as a little girl. I could even see the tank top I was wearing, the mirror I was looking in.
Yes.
Just I knew I was special. I knew I was
Yeah.
talented. Like, that little girl knew.
Very cool.
And then there was a
Mm-hmm.
shift, and I was
Yeah.
able to like start to identify, well, I already knew, I've
Yeah.
done a lot of work. So it was little, but she was navigating me to the feeling. So
Yes.
before my mind was like, this must have been where,
Right.
and instead she was having me find a certain state of mind, not a
Right.
time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was taking you back to the feeling. And I do remember that because, energetically, like, we get stuck and we don't really understand why, but our subconscious mind knows. So when you're in a state of hypnosis, it's like that part of your mind knows kind of everything, and why we do certain things. When I was talking, about trance, hypnosis states and always being in one, with what Danielle was saying, it's like, a person is conscious, but you go back without a filter of judgment, of analytical, of anything like that. So it's very powerful. And we're always moving through one of like 6 states, what I would say, 6 energetic states that are created by memory. So we're either in a past state, which is negative or positive. We're either the present, which all that exists right now, this is it, right? If you're really present, or we're in a future where we're in a negative or positive. And I will lump neutral in with positive. But when we're in the past, we're not here, right? When we're in the future, we're not here. But what happens is that a lot of people create their present by their past or their future. And most people that live in the past that are kind of stuck, they're living in anger, resentment, trauma. And every time that we revisit that, we feel it and we relive it because the part of the mind, the subconscious, which is where we go in hypnosis, does not know the difference between real, pretend, or imagined, and it is not linear. And to prove that, if we go into a past memory, we feel it now. If the subconscious mind knew the difference, you couldn't feel it now. It's not possible. It would say, well, that's in the past. You can't feel it. Just like I find that people that go into the future and future pace, what they do is they fear, they worry about what might happen. And the positive intention of that is to protect themselves, right? But what happens is because they're thinking that way, they're creating anxiety. And because the subconscious doesn't know the difference, they feel it now. So we're creating our reality with every thought we think. So I teach people how to access those states and to create the life that they want. Now, if they're in the past and they're stuck in like trauma, regret, resentment, there's healing that needs to happen. Can also do it without context. So it's almost like you go back, and there are different ways that as a facilitator with the person's consent, because it is a consent state, we go back and the subconscious mind will know kind of what to do. And I use a variety of processes, but there's processes that come from creating self-awareness. What are my triggers? What are my, what are the things that, are contributing to me, being stuck in this like negative pattern or reliving this trauma. And also teaching people to like, what do you want for your future? Like we always are thinking a lot about the problem. And so I'm teaching them to kind of focus on everything that's not the problem. And because the subconscious doesn't know the difference, we're creating a different type of energy. And like with what Danielle was saying, it's fascinating. Like when you're in that state, and say, for Danielle being stuck, it wasn't about the cigarettes. It never is about the thing. It's about the emotion that's pushing it.
Exactly.
So what are those layers? And I often find when people are, distracting themselves, comforting themselves with a behavior like smoking, drinking, gambling, pornography, overspending, that's not the thing. It's not the thing. It's the distraction. Because people, generally human beings, this is true for everyone, we want to move away from pain, we want to create pleasure, and we want to conserve energy. Those are three kind of very primal things. So, so that's kind of how I work. So for a baseline, I'm always working with the emotion that's driving the behavior. It's like, what is it? Let's create awareness, because without that, you can't create change. How am I going to deal with it? And do I need to heal it? And that's part of, when I introduce myself, part of the foundation of emotional intelligence, which is 1, self-awareness, know thyself. 2, how do I regulate myself? 3, how do I show up in social situations, and what are my awarenesses around there? And then how do I manage my relationships? So within that as a foundation, hypnosis is an amazing tool to create those change. So what we're really doing is, healing the emotion in a positive way, so that we're having a positive outcome. And so we're kind of fusing the emotional with the logical brain, with emotional intelligence, because if we're not doing that, emotions are the strongest part of us, and they will win every single freaking time if we're not learning how to deal with them in a healthy way. Now, I know that's a lot, but
that's some tips to keep myself regulated. So, and very mindful tips. So you can reorganize your mind yourself, essentially. And one of them is, if I'm triggered, you'll have to correct me and give the real tip, but you go like this, and you have your mind.
People listening, Danielle is putting her fingers in front of her eyes and going like,
and then to the
opening them. Yeah.
To the peripheral vision. Yeah. That was one thing that we, so for example, like with the awareness, that's created, like someone comes in to me and they're like, well, I'm stuck, I'm having this, or I'm smoking, I'm drinking, or I have this fear, or, I'm stuck in this grief, right? So we're talking about the emotion, how is that manifesting, right, in their life, and then, so that's the behavior, but we're going back to the emotion. And so what we're creating first is awareness. And then what we want to do, like Danielle said, is we want to make sure that a person, that we have skills to be able to regulate the emotion, so they're not taking over and affecting our health, mental and physical. So what happens is what Daniel was saying, there are tools that you can introduce that actually keep your brain functioning at a higher level. When we're in a good space and we're feeling really good, we're operating at a higher level, a more logical, reasonable level. When we get triggered by an uncomfortable emotion, or stress, or chronic stress or anxiety, what happens is, or depression, things like that, is the brain starts to kind of like not work as well. I follow the work of a woman called Laurel Melner, and she's a researcher, a psychologist in San Francisco. Has written 7 books on neuroplasticity. So how she explains it is 5 regions of the brain when we're operating, again, as I said, feeling really good, things are great, we're in a higher level. When stress is introduced, anxiety, things like that, the brain starts to decline in that region, and actually goes to a lower brain state. So we become a little more grabbed, we become a little more tense, we become a little more inflexible. And if we're not doing something to intercept and to regulate, it can turn into a full-blown panic attack, which is primal. Like, I don't care, like I am off the rails. I can't reason. I can't engage in a healthy relationship, healthy communication. I can't focus. So there's some science behind that. So what Danielle was talking about is, when we create self-awareness and we start to notice the grab or the trigger, like we feel it in our body first. And then what we do is we introduce some techniques that can basically neutralize the feeling instead of further declining and be in a higher brain state. And so one of the things she was talking about is, it's called peripheral vision expansion, which is another name for this technique, as well as others, are under the umbrella of something called bilateral stimulation. So what you're doing is you're in your emotional brain state, say, I'm going along, then something really bugs me. Something comes up and it's like, it's really starting to irritate me. So I feel it and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do something to actually cross hemispheres of my brain to my logical brain, so that I'm fusing emotion with logic, and it's like a break state. Actually, and then what happens is when you connect that and you do something like the peripheral vision expansion is basically, she was showing you with your hands, but you basically stare at anything. You could stare at the back of someone's head, and you just kind of breathe in and out slowly, and you expand your peripheral with looking at the same spot until you can, kind of notice what you see in your peripheral, below it, above it, things like that. And you breathe in and out, and you kind of bring it in and out. And what it does is it brings you into the present. It calms down that emotional brain, gives you a few moments, and then it regulates you so that you can, communicate better. You can have better conversations and actually improve your health, because, when we're in a constant state of chronic stress, which turns into anxiety or sadness, we're just, we are releasing different chemicals from our brain, like cortisol and adrenaline, which serve a purpose if we're in danger, but it can also create, if we have an excess of that, a lot of inflammation, insomnia, headaches, stomach aches, things like that. So, I mean, everything's connected, so.
What's really cool, Amber, I love the work you do. It goes very similar with what I do, but in many different ways. But it's the self-awareness that you're there, that you're doing quickly, and then using a tool to change where you're going, right? And I find, and I'm interested to see what you think about this, and Danielle, is that as you build that, right, you start to realize you're declining and you use a tool. You start to realize you're declining and you use a tool. Your baseline ends up improving. And so decline, you get it so much quicker. You recognize it so much quicker. The tools come so much quicker. And then your decline ends up being like, that you don't even get to that deep level of decline.
Yeah. So you kind of go like, so if you're on a trajectory and you get grabbed and you're going like this, and all of a sudden you go like this, right? And it's harder. But if you start to do these techniques, and it has to be intentional. I mean, I practice this every freaking day of my life. What happens is you're going along and you might dip a little, but you can correct very easily, because what you're doing is you're strengthening a neural pathway. So what you're doing is that same old emotion that would take over, you're putting a roadblock up, and you go, no, we're not going here. We're going here. So you're lighting up a different hemisphere. And so neurologically, you're strengthening connection that's going to give you more emotional regulation, more emotional stability, more emotional resilience. So that's kind of the science that's going on. And then, so it's a very important part. And then there also comes to the part of like, okay, so you go into the deal. So there are these techniques that you can deal with it. There are many. And then you go into, okay, is there a healing phase? So, a lot of the work that I do is childhood trauma. It goes back to, because we all have trauma, right? We have big traumas. We have little traumas. We have trauma, right? And so when we're little, if you kind of reverse engineer emotions, when we're little, we believe everything. Kids have a huge imagination. We believe everything. And the people that are most influential are, people that are taking care of us, our parents, our caretaker. And how do we learn? How do we learn about the world, what to be scared of, what not to be scared of, what our potential is? Good girls do this, bad boys do this, or what, we can be, what our potential is when we grow up. And we believe it. We believe it. Because the subconscious mind is wide open, and kids have a huge imagination. As we get older, we get more of the filter developed. It's not fully developed for quite a while, but we get the filter that filters out. It's our judgment, our analytical, our short-term memory. It protects us, but that's not developed in small children. And so because the subconscious is about 90% of our brain power, it has a huge influence over the way that the trajectory of how we see life through the lens. And then we kind of delete, distort, kind of categorize things that happen in life according to the things that we were told. And a lot of those things weren't ours. They were somebody else's that we took on. And then they show up and they manifest in a way that's not particularly healthy. So when you go back and you reverse engineer those emotions with awareness, with the regulation, with that knowledge and use it instead of, judgment, or doing things that are unhealthy. You can look at it in a way that's very healing, understanding, compassionate, and empathetic. And you take that learning and kind of leave the rest, So it's very powerful work. And as I said, if you think about it, it makes sense because, again, how do we learn about emotions? When we're babies, we're so pure, we're just responding, but then we're conditioned, on how to show up. Oh, don't do that. Dress like this. Oh, your hair should be this way. Oh, no, that's not acceptable to do. Or, this religion is the one that you should believe in. Or, hey, money is the root of all evil. Or, hey, so you can think about how all those very powerful messages. And I'm sure that everyone here can think of something when they were little that to kind of like creep in and affect their life as an adult. And some of those things can be little, but some of them can be incredibly, incredibly significant and unhealthy.
Yeah.
As an adult, like as a parent, I'm messing up my kids. I can see it. Right? And, or, like off my own project, like I'm self-aware more times than I do. And I'll start doing tapping with them.
Yes.
Everything I just said to you. What did I hurt your feelings by saying you didn't do good on a paper and not realizing because I was reacting? Did that happen this week? If it did, can we work on it? Can we tap on it? Can you think about it? You don't even have to tell me. You don't even have to tell me how I hurt you. Tap it out because that's one thing I've taken on as a parent. Like, hey, your brain is a program, and I might do things that aren't positive to your programming, and I want to help you, give you tools so you can even cope now.
Yeah, that's so important, Danielle. And the tapping that you're talking about, just for people listening, tapping is called it's called tapping, but it's emotional freedom technique. And basically, so there's science behind this. And if you want to unleash the power of Google, anybody that's listening, check it out because there are thousands and thousands of people that use this all over the world. It has had national and global attention. Basically, so we're all energy, right? That's it. That's the law of physics. Nobody can argue with that. You can't change it or destroy it. It changes forms. So if we have like an emotion that's upsetting, it's emotion. If you think about it, the word E, energy, and motion, it's in our body. So if we have energy that's stuck, like it's blocking our meridians or our energy centers. So tapping is a way of acknowledging the emotion and kind of caring for it so we can just let it go and let it flow. That's a pretty simple explanation, but it's super easy, highly effective. And for kids, it's wonderful. I mean, you think about when, and I don't want to make cognitive distortion here. However, I'm going to maybe. In general, like I think it's become, more common, but in general, like when I was raised, like we weren't taught how to deal with our emotions. It was like children should be seen and not heard. Don't talk back. Don't do this. Don't, anger's not good. And so all this stuff gets suppressed. And so if we taught our kids how to be more emotionally resilient and to care for their emotions as much as like brushing their teeth, how to walk, how to tie their shoes, how to feed themselves, think about what a different world it would be.
So different. So different.
Oh, incredibly different. It would, yeah.
It's one of the reasons why I do what I do, because I was taught to suppress, right? Exactly what I'm talking about. And I saw the effects of suppression. And then, and I was a psychiatric nurse, and I really saw the effects of suppression. And I think that we just need to be intelligent. Like you said, it's just like brushing our teeth.
Yeah. It's
like feeding ourselves. It's like drinking water, putting clothes on in the morning. It is just as, if not more important, because I don't care. I don't care if your teeth are clean. I care that you are good here.
Yeah. It's emotional hygiene.
Well,
that's what I call it. It's like emotional hygiene.
Yeah. I mean, and if your thoughts are what creates the reality, then it's got to be more important, because if you're focusing on that emotional intelligence and like what your mind is doing, then all that other stuff can manifest itself in whether positive or negative,
100%. And there's a lot of like research out there. Like there's a great book by Dr. Bruce Lipton called Biology of Belief or Belief Biology, but he studies epigenetics. And, how we think affects us right down to a cellular level. Like I could tell you story after story, case after case of healing that has happened. And the mindset, like Trinity was saying, mindset, emotional regulation mindset is in my opinion, one of the most important skills in life that will affect your quality of life. Hands down, because, and Dr. Bruce Lipton says the 5 things that affect a person the most, their health, is our environment. Okay. What we're, what's around us every day, who we hang out with, how we move our bodies, what we ingest. And the most powerful thing is this, how we think to ourselves. That creates our reality, because we're creating our reality with every thought we think. And, and you can just try that. Like, look, hey, you can go back and you can think of a memory that's upsetting and you can feel it. And then you release, a different energy, different chemicals, or you can go into a past memory and you can think of something really happy and it makes you laugh. It's very, very different, so, really utilizing states, past, present, and future, is incredible, for, your overall health, hands down.
One thing I wanted to chime in and say about, is it EMT or EFT? Did we say it right? Is it EMT?
EFT, yeah, emotional freedom technique, yeah.
Okay. So what I like about that is not only are we looking at it from an emotional state, right? It's a physical act.
Yes.
It's happening now. So it's tapping from your head to the side of your eyes, down below your eyes, between your nose and your mouth, your chin and the mouth. Your chest area, under your lymph node area, and then the karate chop part.
Yeah, the setup. And if anybody that's listening wants, I could post a free instruction guide if anybody wanted it.
Yeah. We'll take that, Amber. We can add it in the show notes when we post this.
Amber, the work that you do is incredible, because we're all here, every single one of us, and all of our guests and all of our listeners. Like, we want to live the best, highest quality of, and so that's what this podcast is. We bring amazing people like you on, who just give tips, tricks, resources to how to do that, right? So EFT, for example, if you just took Amber's free resource and started EFT, life-changing, right there. And it's the most simplest thing in the world. And like Danielle said, like, it only takes a couple of minutes, but it's a great tool. The worst thing you can do is be aware of what's happening and have zero tools.
Right.
That's what I do. And EFT is also a practice in martial arts. So this is not coming out of like a left field here. It's celebrated and used within athleticism. And meditation and these self-coping tools. And that's really, I think, is again at the core of my why, which I've said a lot throughout the podcast, is aerial arts in a physical sense saved my life. Like, that's why I do it, is to give someone a coping tool. Because I have this one interview where I almost looked aggressive when I'm saying it, so I don't share the clip a lot. But I was like, I'm giving you a tool to save your own life one day. You can come to class and then stop coming, but I'm still equally emotionally involved and hopeful, because it could be years later that they access that tool to cope with something.
100%.
Yeah.
And Danielle, what's really great, that you do that. I love that you're using that, because that is one of the main tools that I teach children, and also children that are in competitive sports. I've had many young children come to me, and their parents are brought to me, and they have had a fall or something, or that scared them, and they just can't get back into it. They can't get their mind in the zone, and the tapping is huge. It's a huge helpful resource that has been a game changer. So I love that you incorporate that.
Well known in athleticism, I will say that. It got rid of nightmares. So I started doing it with not even the intent to get rid of the nightmare. It was like the objective was something different. But what happened was, all of a sudden I could barely even think of the nightmare. It was really bizarre. And then that's when I was like personally hooked, because it proved myself, right? Like, I didn't have his advice. I proved it to myself. And
Yes.
that's what it was. It was the first example I gave you guys. It was a nightmare.
Yeah.
And it was the tapping I had started to do for myself, and I definitely do it with my kids.
I love this.
It's really fascinating. And so, along with that, which is making me think of, there's another technique that I use, and it's called thought field therapy. So just for everybody listening, I find this very interesting. So when we process information, there's 7 different ways, and there's 3 primary ways: visually, auditory, kinesthetic. And we all do it differently based on our beliefs and our values, because we notice things differently. Everybody's different. But it comes into the brain and is processed in a certain way, and then we respond in a certain way. So, for example, here's a really quick example. The optic nerve is the only nerve that goes directly back to the brain. So there are different places, like you can look at eye movements where people are accessing memories, they're constructing memories, they're listening auditorily or digitally, or they're looking in a place where they're accessing feelings, right? So there's a process of, say, here's a great example. I had a client come in to stop smoking. And she started to we were great, everything. She was ready, so we talked a lot about, like, the whys, the emotions behind it. So she's starting to recline in the chair. She freaks out. She's like, I can't. She goes, she has start to have a panic attack because it reminded her of the dentist's office. And I was like, oh crap, here we're all ready to go. And so I immediately used this technique. So this is so interesting. So I had her kind of, what it is it's moving eye patterns, kind of thinking about that thing, but accessing different areas of the brain with eye movements. Because what happens is when you're doing that and you're thinking about it, you're moving into different areas of the brain so that it can't process that feeling in the same way. It kind of scrambles things up. It's really fascinating, and so
it's life-changing. It's life-changing. So I know we have like 1 more minute, but I just want to credit, I've not been to Amber. I love the work you do. I want to learn so much more about what you do and come visit you and meet you in person, but with my therapist. So my mom had passed away, and I had like this horrible vision in my mind, like, of her dying, her process. And I couldn't go through the grief process with that visual. And so my therapist did a therapy technique with me that was eye movement, and it literally got rid of that vision. I can even see the pictures now, and see it. And
you can remember, but you don't feel it. She probably did EMDR. Probably did EMDR. And so I do something similar in thought field therapy. So there's so much that, you can do, with different techniques, to help calm the emotional brain.
Yeah.
I love that.
That was fascinating. I love that. The last thing I will say, I promise, Graham, I see you having anxiety. My body tried to leave. We were about, the first time, we were about 10, 20 minutes into this, and my body physically was trying to get up and leave the room. And I was literally, I physically I forced my body back into the chair. I was literally trying to get up and leave, but my mind was with her in this little place we were going, right? I'm on the path with her, like I'm with her, but my body started physically getting up from the chair and leaving. And she's right, it's a recliner. And I had to plant myself, you guys. It was a moment where that's how I knew it worked too, because my body was trying to bounce. Like, it was like, oh no, I want to stay the same. Oh no.
Right. Fighting it, resisting.
Oh, I definitely get that.
So that's when I was like, oh, this is real. Because the subconscious wanted me to stay where it was comfortable, and it was not going to be in that chair. And I was like, so weird, because it was 20 minutes in. Like, it wasn't when I first showed up. It wasn't when I was walking in the door. It was none of that. It was like when the change was happening. Yeah. And it was so crazy. My body tried to get up and leave. And I was like, no,
That's so cool. Man, I think this conversation has been so enlightening, and I think it's very inspiring too, that just like you were saying, Trinity, there's so many tools out there, and just the power that your mind is such a key piece in everything that we do, and there needs to be more emphasis on that. And so blessed that you came on today, Amber, because that is a resource that our listeners can have. to work for that mind. And so
Thank
again,
you.
I want to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for
Um,
having me.
yeah, most definitely. So good conversation. We'll have to extend it some other time for sure. And there's going to be some extra resources for our listeners. So make sure to tune in. I'm Graham. Valued Productions is my business. You can find me on social media at VALUD Productions, valuedproductions.com. Happy to connect with anybody on marketing their business, and joined with my co-host today.
Hey everyone, it's Trinity Baker, mindset coach and motivational speaker. You can find lots of free mindset resources at my website, thetrinitybaker.com. But follow me on social media, your favorite social media platform. I've got tons of inspiring content to bring your energy up and teach you a little bit about mindset. Joined here with my co-host.
Hi everyone, my name is Danielle. I'm the owner of Aerial Jade. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, etc. I love my website because if you are on a laptop or PC, you can live chat with me, which is an excellent tool if you just have questions throughout your workout or cross training, things like that. Staying connected and doing my best with communication is the goal this year. And so I'm happy to have that tool. And we are here with our guest today.
Yes. So Amber Rose Cox, again, I'm the founder of Main Hypnosis Center, but I work with people globally. I teach emotional intelligence development. I'm a global speaker and presenter. So you can catch me on all the social media platforms. But if you want to, there's something you want to change in your life and you're unable to do it, I'm your girl. Reach out to me. Not hard to find. Unleash the power of Google, Amber Rose Cox.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure that you go follow, like, subscribe, all those things to the Unfiltered Path podcast. Find us on social media and everything like that. And tune in next week for the Unfiltered Path podcast. I hope everyone has a wonderful day.